Hello. I am back with another video, and this video is going to be about how I learned to code in 4 to 5 months and got my first ever proper tech internship. So my first ever proper tech internship was at Bolt in the fall of 2021, where I did pretty well and I got a return offer for this summer. So I decided to return for another term. Mainly because they were throwing crazy amounts of money at me. So I was like, why not? I had a great time there, so why not just go back? Then I started interviewing again for the fall, and I chose Spotify from all the offers that I had. So in this video, we're going to look at interview preparation on how to really crack these coding interviews. And that section is going to be broken down into 5 parts: algorithm data structures, system design, class design, CS trivia, and finally full stack development. And we will end the video with how to set yourself up for success and how to actually follow through with all the prep and how to deal with failure, like how exactly I dealt with failure and how I was able to keep myself motivated despite all the rejections that I was getting. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the single most important skill for technical interviews is algorithms and data structures. And the most popular platform for studying that is LeetCode, right? But you can't just blindly do random questions. To efficiently do something or learn something, just like anything in life, you're gonna need a structured strategy. So here's what I did. So I made a list of all the major LeetCode patterns that all these algorithms and data structures questions are based on. And you can find the list on neetcode.io. So when we go to this website, you can see that, there's a lot of patterns here, such as arrays and hashing, two pointers, sliding window, dynamic programming, and all the famous patterns that cover most of the questions that you will probably encounter in a coding interview. So basically, all you do is pick a pattern and do as many questions as you can on the pattern until you really get comfortable with recognizing the pattern. So in this example, I'll just pick a famous pattern, the sliding window pattern, and I'll go to a question for the pattern. And right now, you're probably just thinking, let's go ahead and solve it. But no, you can't do that, because when you're just starting out learning this stuff, you're gonna waste a lot of time trying to figure out questions that you don't even know how to approach. For example, when you're cooking something, and if you don't really know how to make it, chances are that it's going to turn out pretty bad. So same here, right? First, you got to learn and then do. So what I did when I was starting out was I used to, pick a pattern, pick a question, and then in the question, I used to go to the discuss section. And in the discuss section, people will post amazing solutions and walkthroughs with like full-on templates on how to approach similar questions. And I just tried to read and understand these solutions as much as I could and then approach the problem. And if you don't like reading too much, you can also watch videos on these famous questions. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that will make really good videos explaining on how to approach a question based on the pattern that we're looking at right now. I also tried to read the solution and translated the code into English so that I could better understand what was going on. And if you do this properly and if you practice enough, whenever you see a similar question, your brain is going to be like, oh wait, this is just this type of pattern. And you'll remember what to do. And once you've gone through all the major patterns and really understood how to solve these different type of patterns based on the templates, then you can start doing random questions. And if you learn the patterns properly, you'll be able to look at the random questions and be like, oh wait, I've seen this before. This is a dynamic programming pattern. Oh wait, or this is a sliding window pattern. And obviously, this goes without saying, but you really have to practice a lot. I try to do 1 to 2 questions a day. And personally, I had to solve at least 20 to 25 questions per pattern in order to really understand what was going on and for my brain to start recognizing them in coding interviews. And remember, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You won't see large progress overnight, but that's okay. But I promise you that if you keep practicing, you are slowly moving along the curve. And that's okay, because eventually there will come a point where everything just clicks, and it all just starts making sense. And your brain starts recognizing these patterns in the interview questions that you're doing. Now, let's move on to class design. Class design questions are basically just object-oriented design questions. And one of my favorite class design questions is design a vending machine. And I think that if you're just starting out, you should really try to do this question, because doing this will really help you understand the basics of how object-oriented design really works. You will learn how to actually incorporate concepts such as polymorphism or inheritance in your code. And by doing these sort of questions, you're going to learn how to really structure your code, how to build classes that you can reuse instead of just duplicating code, and what data structure to store information in for your specific scenario. Now, moving on to system design. Now, usually for internships or new grads, companies won't be asking you to do a system design round. But I do know of some companies like Snowflake or Splunk that force you to do a system design round, even if you're a junior level developer. And I actually remember this. Splunk asked me to design Uber in my interview. And in my mind, I was like, what the fuck, man? Just because I use the app doesn't mean I know how to design it, right? And maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I really just don't think that companies should ask junior level developers system design questions, because no one will let a junior architect the system, right? And getting that experience is a little bit hard, especially in internships. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't learn it. So anyways, for system design, I think one of the best resources out there is the book by Alex Su. And the name of the book is System Design, The Insider's Guide, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I think this is the holy Bible when it comes to system design interviews, because I think the author does an impeccable job in breaking down complex concepts and explaining them in a way that someone with zero knowledge of how large-scale systems are built can really understand what's going on. The book itself will walk you through, many different architectures of many different companies, popular services, like how exactly is Google Drive built, or how exactly is Uber built, and how to scale your systems as you gain more users. And sometimes in your interviews, and this actually happened in the Splunk interview as well, you might also get CS trivia questions. And most of the CS trivia questions are going to be based on the following 4 categories. So number 1, networking, number 2, security, number 3, databases, and number 4, operating systems. And I think operating systems and databases usually make up the bulk of the CS trivia questions that you might encounter in an interview. So, I would suggest learning up on your threads, your locks, and a little bit of concurrency to just really make sure that you're covered and you're ready for potential curveballs in your interview. Now, let's move on to full stack development. I think everybody who is just getting started in the field needs to learn full stack development. And building a full stack application all by yourself will help you understand the basics of how large applications function. And once you have a good base understanding, then you can build on top of that and specialize in any area you want. For example, front end, back end, platforms, or whatever. So how do you really learn full stack development? Well, the magic word for that is projects. You just need to sit down and build. Look up basic tutorials on YouTube and just follow them. And when you don't understand something, just Google it. There's absolutely no shame in Googling, because that's exactly how you learn. And I would recommend doing multiple projects with different types of tools and technologies to really get your head around what's out there in the field currently. For example, you can build an application using the MERN stack, or you can build an application using the LAMP stack. You can build APIs in both REST and GraphQL to really expand your knowledge of how these tools are being used in the industry right now. And I'm gonna link some of my favorite project tutorials down below so you guys can follow them and learn and understand what's really going on. Now, with all that being said, in theory, it's a pretty simple path forward, right? Like if you practice enough questions, if you do enough mock interviews, you'll be able to do well in actual interviews, and you'll be able to get offers from all the companies that you want. But easier said than done, right? How do you actually stay on the path and follow through with all this prep? So when you set ambitious goals for yourself in life, it's obviously going to be pretty hard to achieve them. That's why they're called ambitious. And the progress you make towards those goals, in large part, I believe, is based on the environment that you're in. And what I mean by that is the people around you will play a really big role in if you achieve your goals or not. Because you need the right people around you to push you when the times get tough, right? You need someone to tell you to get out of bed. You need someone to tell you to go to the gym. You need somebody to tell you to do more questions, even though you don't feel like it. And it's really nice to have people around you to really encourage you and push you towards your dream and hold you accountable. And most of all, it's really great to have people around you that will help you bounce back from failure. And oh my goodness, did I fail a lot. But I was very, very, very lucky to have the right people around me to push me through that. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I got an interview at Faire for an internship. And it's a pretty famous startup, actually. It's one of the hottest, late stage startups in North America right now. And that was my first ever technical coding interview. And I prepared like crazy. Like I did everything I could have done. And as soon as the interviewer pasted the question, I knew that I was about to get clapped. And needless to say, I got clapped, right? Because the question was hard as fuck. And I could barely do it. I did manage to write some code though, but it didn't even compile. And I remember there being like at least 20 compilation errors as soon as I clicked the run button. And I could just see that the interviewer was like completely disappointed. Like he was probably thinking like, who the fuck let this guy interview with us? I mean, like looking back, it's a pretty funny experience, but in the moment it was pretty sad. And that rejection obviously hurt me, but it didn't hurt me too much because I was like, it was my first ever technical interview. I still have a long way to go and I just got to keep practicing and just keep going. But to make matters worse, I got rejected from Shopify in the same week. Not Spotify, Shopify. And if you guys don't know, Shopify has like a relatively easy interview process. It's like you have your life story interview, which most people pass. And then after that, you have a project round and then a really easy technical question. And I thought I did really well. I made it to the final round and, I showed them the project. They seemed to like it. And I did the question an optimal time as well. It was a pretty easy question, but it turns out that I still got rejected. And that one hurt me quite a bit because I was like, yo, if I can't even pass an easy interview like this, how am I ever going to pass interviews at other companies that are much, much harder? Like, this was such an easy question and I still found a way to mess it up. And looking back, let's just say things happen for a reason, because now their stock price has gone to absolute shit. And no, I can't say that. And looking back, let's just say things happen for a reason, because, their stock price is not doing too well and they just canceled all their fall internship positions. And a lot of people I know got their offers rescinded. So, life has a way of working itself out. But back then I was pretty devastated, and self-doubt started to creep in. I was thinking all the negative stuff, like why am I even trying to do this? Like, how am I trying to compete with people who are in computer science and who are in software engineering, who study this every day? Like, these guys have been coding for so long, and most of the people I knew in the field had been coding since high school. And for me, I just started coding like 4 to 5 months ago. And I was like, how are you going to compete with these people, right? Like, how are you planning on beating these guys? You can't do this. And I'm not proud to say this, but I almost gave up. Like, I almost threw in the towel. After that one, I was like, this is not for me. I don't think I can do this. And in that moment, I felt a lot like Rock Lee. I don't know if you guys watch Naruto or whatever, but Rock Lee is a character who didn't have any talents, who wasn't born with the gifts like other ninjas were. Like, he didn't have any ninjutsu or genjutsu. Like, basically, he didn't have any talent, but he was still competing with all the other ninjas in the show, just based on his skill. And as I said in the last video, I had only taken first year CS courses. And even in those courses, I had barely passed. Like, I remember I failed one of the midterms and had to drop the course and retake the course later on, right? But I still decided for some reason to do this. And after getting rejected over and over again, I just thought, all this is kind of pointless. Just like Rock Lee thought that his training is all pointless because he doesn't have any natural talents. But then one day, and this is a true story, I was scrolling through Instagram and I see this clip of Guy Sensei talking to Rock Lee, and he says this.
You say you want to show the world you can be a splendid ninja, even if you don't have all the gifts that others are blessed with. That's your ninja way, right? Well, I think that's a fine goal. As fine a goal as I've ever heard, and one worth sticking to. Don't let anything steer you off the path you've drawn for yourself. Forge ahead to the end. Stick to it, Lee. Make me proud. Be everything you can be. Will you do that for me, Lee?
Yes, sir!
And then I was like, isn't that the point of life? To see how far you can really go? To push your limits both mentally and physically, to throw yourself in the fire and come out forced, right? To challenge yourself and build qualities like perseverance, grit, and a will that cannot be broken. And I guess you just gotta really pick something that you want and just fight for it, right? You just gotta follow through with it. And it doesn't really matter what it is, but you can't let failure define you. You just can't. Like, when you're telling your kids about your life, what are you gonna say? Like, are you gonna say that, you gave up when times got hard? Or did you, forge on regardless and found a way to win? Because we all know in life, you're gonna get smacked in the face, right? And sometimes, it's gonna be a death of a family member, or, maybe your wrist breaks, right? When you're about to make progress in the gym. Or maybe you prepared so hard for an interview and still got rejected. But at the end of the day, it's always your choice, right? Like, do you start making excuses and blame the world and blame the interviewer and blame other people? Or do you step up and take responsibility? And you're gonna have to make this decision for yourself, right? And that day, when the doctor told me I can't go to the gym because I have a wrist condition, or when a company told me that I wasn't good enough, I sat down, I cried, I gathered my thoughts, I recalculated the plan, but I got back up. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Everybody would be at Google, everybody would have abs, everybody would be rich, but it's not. And you can't just do things only when you feel like it. You're gonna have to get up out of bed even though you don't feel like it. And you're gonna really have to do those questions even though you don't feel like it, right? Work on your business, go to the gym, do whatever that you wanna do, and go outside your comfort zone and make things happen. Like, nobody has ever achieved their goals accidentally, right? Like, you have to live an intentional life. You have to have consistent effort towards your goals in order to make it. And don't take it from me. I'm just a 21-year-old kid who has no idea what's going on. But take it from Guy Sensei. And he said, go out there and be great. Be everything that you can be. Now, I'm not saying I'm great. but I'm sure as hell on my fucking way. Are you?
The Sneeko, they say that he the new Frito, shooting YouTube free throws. Now we going to beast mode. He's so arrogant, it's so apparent it's nerve-wracking. Got these up-and-comers all scared of shit. Nerves is stressing, now they gotta work, gotta put a lot more effort in your videos. This guy's a jerk. Now you got one of two options. You can either get